Absolutely. So I'm sandwiched between a very, very, very creative session that Soumyadeep just delivered and a lunch break, right? So the organizers haven't been kind to me, right? So let me act as an appetizer and share with you all some insights on our journey and how it has been shaping the F&B sector, right? A quick background, right? And before getting into that, let me ask this audience a very relevant question. What are the two things that we all need to answer every day going to work, right? Two questions that we hate answering, but we don't have a choice. Each and every one of us has to answer on a daily basis. Any guesses? So first one is when we get up in the morning, we have to decide what to wear, right? Not a choice. Every day we have to decide what to wear. And what's the next one? Correct. What do we eat for lunch today? Right? So whether we like it or not, we are compelled to make these two choices every day, right? And wish there was someone helping us make these decisions. Right? So for the clothes piece, I'm sure there are a lot of startups who are trying to solve for that. Our obsession is to solve the second question, right? Which is what to eat today for lunch, right? And if there is some companion who can help make this decision better than I could, I'll be really delighted. Correct? It's a sentiment all of us share. Right. So moving on, let me talk to you about what we exactly stand for, right? I know not everyone, it's not a slam dunk kind of a question that what does HungerBox do, right? And this one-liner is something that has been work in progress for the last 10 years, right? So we enable institutions manage their food and beverage program, right? And by institutions, I mean, corporate offices, educational institutions, food courts, hospitals, malls, multiplexes, etc., everywhere, right? So that's our obsession, and that's what we do as a company. And how do we do that? The first thing we do, and something that was our go-to-market strategy 10 years back, was to digitize the cafes, right? The next was to put in a variety of food and beverage partners who would come and serve food at the premises, right? And by F&B in institutions, 70% of food consumption is in cafes. The rest, 30%, are events, pantry services, vending machines, beverage counters, etc. Right? And then the third thing we said that we would do is take care of food safety and compliances, which is a very, very, very complex and a very, very, very key piece to the entire food and beverage industry. So we said that that's something we will own and take care of, right? The fourth one is about cafe management, right? So take care of the day-to-day functioning of cafes. It's a 24/7 assignment, right? So most of our cafes run 24/7. So there are fooding sessions we have at 3 a.m. in the morning, right? So we would take care of that, right? And now the question that you would ask is that what would a company like this have an AI play, right? And just to give you all an idea about our size and scale, right? So today we manage about 900 cafes in the country, spread across 39 cities, churning out about 7.5 lakh orders a day, right? We peak at 1:14 p.m., right? That's when India eats. So we do about 3,000 orders in a minute at that point of time, and doing about 1,200 crore of annual food sale, right? So while having reached here, the question that popped up in every team meeting anywhere in the world, and every company had to answer, the same question came to us from all our stakeholders, from our clients, from our board, from everyone, as to what is the HungerBox AI strategy, right? And this question came about 1.5 years back. And since then, we have been, kind of dwelling towards, what's next, right? So first thing we did is, kind of try to, understand this world, right? And once we had a little working understanding, we felt that this is, our demo moment, right? And by demo, I mean that, what demonetization did to a lot of companies, right? Especially ours, where digital interfaces became, from a sidekick in a movie, we became, the real heroes, right? Companies that were mainstreamed. So demo had that impact on us, right? And we feel that, AI would have similar impact on our businesses, right? Make us far more relevant and compelling over the years to come, right? And I'll tell you why we are, so well placed and what's been our journey, right? So the first meeting, we said that what's it that we are starting off with, right? Where do we draw the line and where do we start, right? So few things that are very compelling, something that, only we have, right? Number one was data. It's the only company in the world to have processed over 75 crore, digital orders in some cafeteria or the other in the country, right? Only company in the world to have done that, right? So we sat on this kind of a rich data, 14 lakh users who have used HungerBox. Just a show of hands, any HungerBox users in this room? Oh, wow, thank you. Right? So I'm sure some of you all would relate. Right? So 14 lakh users using us. Right? What's the other piece that we brought to the table? Right? Is the expertise. Right? It's been about 9-10 years that we have been running the company, managing these 900 odd cafes. So about 5 crore, cafe operations hours, right? That's what we have clocked, and we felt that we should use that expertise that we have generated, right, to good use. Right? The third one was tools. I'm not going to put names because these names keep changing every 3 months, right? So whatever I put here will be relevant in the next 6 months. So I bucketed everything, and calling them tools, right? So these very, very, very smart tools, that are available to us. So this became our starting point, right? And the idea was to make best use of all these raw materials, ingredients available with us to dish out something very nice, and tasty, right, to our customers, right? So, and the approach we took, and in the hindsight, a year later, we feel that that's been something that has made an immense impact for us as a business, is the fact that we said that rather than getting swayed by the tools and their ability to do what they are able to do, we want to focus and have razor sharp attention on what problems are there for my ecosystem, and am I solving the real problems that face my ecosystem, right? And if I cannot, through this, solve real problems of my ecosystem, then it's all irrelevant. Then it's like a lot of our companies who are just doing AI just to tick a box somewhere, right? We don't want to do that, right? We don't want to do lip service. We want to do it only if we feel that it's going to solve for our ecosystem, right? And what's our ecosystem, right? So number one, obviously, is our end user, right? So the 14 lakh people who use us on a daily basis, we first want to solve for them. The next one are our administrators, right? People who give us the business, people who own those institutions, people who kind of bring us in to run the food and beverage program. How can I change their lives and make it easier? Right? The other piece is the entire operations team, right? So we have a vast operations team. How do I digitally equip them and make them more efficient? Right? And the fourth stakeholder is our food partners, right? So about 960 food partners across the country. How am I able to make life better for them, right? And when we surveyed each and every one, understood their pain points, and how do I solve for it. Number one, end user, right? And as I started with my example, right, that for the end user, the number one thing was about solving for what do I want to eat today, right? So that decision today, all I have is my past ordering patterns. What have I been eating? What's there in the cafeteria right now, etc. But what if I am able to bring in a lot more insights that my little brain cannot bring in as to what others are eating, what others are eating, right? What others are enjoying, right? What people similar to me, right, are doing and are liking. So if I can bring all that information and all that data on real-time basis to help make my user make that decision as to what he should eat in the cafe today, right? And obviously it has to be different things on a different day, right? Because India is a country of choice and variety. So add all that and give him these solutions. So that's an obsession, right? And we feel that these tools, our ability to be able to address this big challenge of our industry has kind of, looks like something that is achievable, right? The second piece was for the administrators, right? What do they want, right? They are looking for, what's my sale, what's the voice of my customers, whether, my employees are enjoying the food or not. I have a presentation to my CXO on Monday. It's a Sunday. Can someone help me put all this together in a very simple format so that I can just, kind of go on a Monday and present it. So, making their life simpler, easing access to data, comprehending that into, simple presentations that they are able to make and share, right? So, creating all that, insights for the administrator. The third one was, for the operations team, right? And I'm sure most of y'all, would relate to this. You'd visit a lot of washrooms where you would find a kind of a checkbox pasted there, right? With someone having scribbled some entries as to these checkboxes were done. So this is something that we digitized over the years and created a digital checklist for our staff to be able to fulfill, fill that, session-wise, fooding session-wise, etc., right, relevant for our industry. And we did that for, some years. And then we realized that, this is also outdated, right? What if my staff can just, pull up his phone, open the app, and just take a video of the entire cafe operations, right? Including the kitchen, including the utility, including, the chairs, including the bain marys, the service counters, etc., right? And I decide whether it's in order, right? I give it a cleanliness score, I give it a, well-organized score, etc. I assign that, and if I find that there is some shortcoming, I'm able to immediately intervene and get him to address that. So all that through a live, a live video streaming, right? So that's something that we kind of were eventually able to build together, and something that we are kind of launching, which we are very excited that from a journey of having to scribble something on paper to a digital checklist being filled to today, they just take a video and we kind of are able to address all these questions, right? So that journey we are able to make, and in our industry, half the challenge is about building such solutions. The other half is about educating, taking people into confidence, explaining people that this is not going to replace you, not going to take away your job. This is just going to make you more efficient, make you more accountable. So let's join this journey. So 50% is about taking your ecosystem together, building that trust, making them believe that this is for the good, right? So doing that and taking everyone along has been the other part of the journey, right? The big question for my food partners, right? And any guesses, the lunch that you all going to have, right? Any idea of what time would preparation for that lunch have started? I'm sure we all make food in our kitchens, right? So these are just little larger size kitchens. So what time would lunch preparation have started in the kitchen it came? I see 8 a.m., right? 8 a.m., 4 a.m., 7 a.m. Yeah, so it starts at 3 a.m., right? That's where the vegetable chopping and everything starts for you to have lunch at 1 p.m., right? That's the journey that food takes, right? And it cannot be done before, cannot be done later. It's all real time, right? So that's where it starts, right? So the biggest challenge that our food partners ask of us is how much to prepare, right? Because there's food being brought in from central kitchens, set up in your office cafeteria, being served. If there is wastage, right? No matter how much money you have made selling, 50, 100 portions, if there is a wastage of in excess of 5, 10, 15%, then you have incurred very, very, very deep losses in operations for the day, right? So there are just two metrics that matter in our part of the world: kitchen utilization rate and the wastage percentage, right? So a good wastage percentage is not more than 3%. Right? So the biggest challenge over the years that we have seen is to be able to predict as to how much food to prepare and bring to the cafeteria, right? Today, right? And there are just so many variables attached to it. The weather conditions, I have to come to work 3 days a week, so I will ensure I don't come on a Monday and a Friday. And so accounting for that, India-Pakistan match, right? So we have to practically account for everything, every micro scenarios that could happen, right? To be able to, with some level of confidence, tell food partners that, bring this much food, right? And then stand by the number we have given them, because otherwise, there is either wastage or there is shortage, both of which are not acceptable, right? We don't want a scenario either ways, right? So this acute problem of our industry is something that we are trying to now able to solve, right? With all this data having fed into the platforms, seeing the patterns, seeing, all kinds of variations that we have seen over the last 10 years, right? To be able to predict as to what will be the food consumption today during lunch, right? So that's one of the biggest challenges we are trying to solve for our food partners. Cool. Now, what we feel is the, cultural and organizations themselves are going through a bit of a change, adapting all this, right? And this is a piece that is very less talked about, right? But a piece that is very, very, very relevant, right? Without which, all this migration kind of does not synchronize, right? And our organization, we are about 800, 900 people organization, right? So with, a tech side and then an operations side and people of all walks of life, right? In our organization, so we kind of see everyone's journey happen, right? And what is it that's changing? Number one is the decision making, right? Before this, we would hand out some junior analysts to put a lot of data together, get all the raw data, and then someone would sit on top, put that into a nice presentation, and then make a presentation and all that, right? So there would be an hierarchy of how data was being consumed. So that, gets, completely demolished, right? So today, the consumer of the data is the one who is able to produce and access the data on real time, right? So that changes the entire decision-making ability, right? Flattening hierarchies, we have seen this, right? In my entire entrepreneurship journey, we have seen how organizations are flattening. I think that flattening piece has further accelerated, right? Because today an entry-level, staff equipped with AI is a more potent workforce, right, than someone with, 10, 15 years experience, but is not ready to, kind of migrate to the new world, right? So that flattening hierarchy is happening faster than we can think. New roles are getting generated, right? So the walls that we had between departments and one not having access to the other and all that. So all that is kind of collapsing, and there is a lot more collaboration, faster collaboration, people getting together, doing it, together, as combined teams. So that's another big change that we are seeing. And then, from intuitions to evidence, right? A lot of decision making was based on intuitions before this, but today we are able to run quick pilots, check on whether the intuition, holds true with evidence, right? And be able to make more evidence-based decisions, right? Which is creating a big impact for all of us, right? And all in all, the most important piece that, we all, kind of need to understand and appreciate, and a thought that I want to leave all of you all with, right, is the fact that, AI itself is not the future, right? It is people and organizations enabled with the AI that are, the future, right? And we need to, have the people and organizations embrace it to create the new future that we all, perceive to be building. Right? With that, I will end. Right? Happy to, answer all questions. Right? And while we do that, next time in your cafeteria, if you are waiting for little lesser time for your favorite dosa to come in, you know the company that made it happen, right? So with that, thank you so much. You all have been a very patient and lovely audience. Thank you so much for having me here, right? Happy to answer any questions that you all would have.
Right. Thank you so much, Sandipan. We have the mics coming towards you. Please just raise your hand and we'll bring you the mic, sir. Just, there's one question and we'll come to you after that. Yes,
thank you for the session. It really was an appetizer for lunch. So,
not able to.
Yeah, I was just saying, thank you for the session. It really was an appetizer. So my question here is, I just wanted to better understand that how did you shape your strategy when you started off with this AI transformation in your company? What was the team structure? Which departments did you pull in? Did you have one single team which was dictating the AI strategy, or did you have different teams for each vertical that you presented?
Right. No, so cardinal sin to say that the AI strategy should be, decided by the engineering team or the product team, right? It just doesn't work that way, right? If you cannot take the entire organization together, right, and make everyone believe internally that these, things need to be embraced and they need to be taken forward, right? You will not be able to, you might create nice fancy presentations, but you'll not be able to get those ideas, and tools really implemented on the ground, right? So the way we went about it is, firstly, we took, each user, each stakeholder in our business, right, and identified what's the one real key problem that hurts them the most, right? Pick that one big problem, right, and then, see if we can, through this strategy, solve for this problem, right? If we are not able to solve it, then just building some nice tools which do some fancy things, which really, are not used by any of my stakeholders, is not necessary, right? And I'm not here to make fancy presentations. I'm here to make an impact for my end, stakeholder, right? So identifying that, and then having cross-functional teams of people from engineering who would bring in, the ideas and concepts, people from operations who are running the cafe operations, who have the on-ground, kind of, experience of seeing real challenges, right? Talking to the stakeholders, doing enough number of surveys. The good part is that for us, our end user is also, mostly a techie themselves, right? So get their, feedback, get their suggestions, put all of it together, right? And then chase one particular objective that we want to solve for them, and then go ahead and build it out, and then plan for it being released and it being adapted. Right? As I mentioned, building out such tools in our experience is 50% of the job. The other 50% is to get it, made into a daily habit for the end user. If it is not being used by them on a daily basis, then there is no point, right? The entire exercise has failed to attain its objective. So we would work towards ensuring that's met, and we track it till the time we have 80–90% adaptation rate of whatever we have put together.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have one question here, and then we'll come to you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vinayak Sheshadri, and I am an ex-fighter pilot from Air Force. My question is like you said, the preparation starts at 3 o'clock in the morning. But if you see some of the fruit salad like apple and fig and all, they start becoming little brownish in color. They start fermenting, and eventually by the time it reaches the office, it's already 12 o'clock. So there will be bacteria and other things setting in there. So how do we preserve these things to avoid, because we've seen a lot of food poisoning happening. Second thing is I had a suggestion, in India, there are a lot of cow gram. The cows, they eat grass. So instead of throwing away the salads and the fruit and other thing, we can actually sell it at a very low rate to these people for these animals, which have a larger digestive system. And I was in Switzerland, what you said, there are many restaurants where the leftovers are there. They advertise around 10 o'clock. People can actually come and buy them at half the price. So, if we start this with your outlets in India, we won't be having that 3% wastage. Thank you.
No, thanks. Very relevant questions. So not everything starts at 3 a.m., right? So most definitely not chopping of the apples that you will consume at 1:30 p.m. Right? So everything has, a time to market, and it's prepared just before, the consumption. And the idea is that from the time it is consumed to the time it is, from the time it's created to the time it is consumed, we keep it as short as possible. Right? So a lot of this chopping of fruits and all that happens at site, is not something that comes from our kitchens and all that, so that they can be freshly cut, and that by the time they are cut, they are served and given to people. Right? But then the question is that what are the control systems that you all have in place, right? And that's where the one of the tools that I talked about, right, our ability to take a live video and be able to identify shortcomings. Right, one of which is that if there is a stale piece of fruit crept, the interface is able to identify that on real-time basis and mark it and tell the staff to get it removed before it is gone ahead and served. Right, so there are a lot of checkpoints that happen in food. Right, by the time food reaches your premises, there is a sensory test done, there is a temperature test done. Temperature is most critical component in the food journey. So if you can hold the temperature of food, right, almost at the point where it was created, you will hardly have any bacterial and fungal growth on it. Right? So that's very critical. So we don't want to leave it to chance. Right? We want, and you have these food thermometers on which is dipped and the temperature is checked. Right, like we do for our own bodies. So this is done, but then today I want it to be evidenced, and I want a digital trail of that maintained, so that tomorrow I myself can hold my team and our entire ecosystem and our partners accountable for not having done that. Right, so these kind of tools that I talked about are helping us with the ability to create these digital journeys and these digital trails of all activities that happen, right? And to answer your question on total food being, kind of given out, that's a very, very, very tough piece, right? Because, food is typically good for 4 to 5 hours, post which it kind of starts deteriorating and deteriorates fast. So, it's as much as we would want that food that is not consumed reach someone else, we want to ensure that, when it reaches someone else, right, it's still not deteriorated, right? So, we have tie-ups all over the country with a lot of NGOs, right, who collect the food at 2:30 p.m., post fooding session having got over, collect it, take it to the NGOs and serve to, the larger group, but only things that are non-perishables, right? Not everything can be served because the sensitivity of that is even higher, right? Even if I'm serving food to the needy, I have to ensure that, it is as fresh as it is, right? If it is not, then we don't want to take that risk, right? So it's a tough piece. Today we are able to do a portion of food being recycled and given to our NGO partners, but something that we are slowly now expanding.